Hello, my name's Kate Harrison and I'm the author of The Dirty Diet, Ditch the Guilt, Love Your Food, and today I want to talk to you about dairy kefir, how delicious it is, how good it is for you, and also how to make your own at home. Now, The Dirty Diet is all about eating a really wide variety of different delicious foods that feed the body and that you can really enjoy drinking and eating. And kefir for me is part of that. So it is a little bit like drinking yogurt, and I've got some here that I've already made in Blue Peter style. It is quite thick, and this I made at home, and I'm going to show you how, because it's possibly the easiest bit of non-cooking you'll ever do. So to taste, it is a bit like diluted yogurt, and depending on how long you've left it to ferment, because it is a fermentation process, you'll have a slightly sourer or a slightly sweeter taste. Because what you're going to be doing with kefir is taking ordinary milk or coconut milk and allowing good bacteria to act on the sugars that are found in milk. So those are the lactose sugars. A lot of people who have a lactose intolerance actually find that they can drink kefir and also have yogurt because those good bacteria have already started to digest the sugars, so there's less of them in the finished product for you to react against. So it's really delicious. Once it's made, it keeps in the fridge for several weeks, and it is really packed with those probiotic bacteria that you keep hearing about. Now, you might have seen the little pots of ready-made drinks in the supermarket. Those are great as a starting point, but they often only have one strain of bacteria in them that has been patented by the manufacturer. Here you're getting the benefit of all the bacteria that have been acting on kefir and other fermented dairy for millennia probably, but certainly for hundreds of years. And we know that those work because people keep drinking them because they like the effects as well as the taste. So I would certainly recommend that if you've never had kefir before, you don't go straight out and buy yourself a starter, because they can cost around about £6 or £7 to buy. Once you've tasted one drink and if you've decided you like it, it's really very cost effective to make your own at home, because typically a little bottle, probably half the size of that, will cost maybe £2, £1.50, and you can basically make that much for just the price of the milk. So it soon works out really cost effective. And so what you need to start off is what we call a scoby. And this is a cluster, a symbiotic cluster of bacteria and yeast, which sounds a bit rank, but actually bacteria and yeast have an amazing effect on so many of the foods that we already love. So thinking about wine that's been fermented, yeast that helps make beer, brewer's yeast, and sourdough starter yeast that help make delicious bread. Even chocolate is fermented, so move over from your phobia of bacteria. So what I've got in here is some kefir that's actually been fermenting since yesterday, and it's right at the end of August here in the UK, which means that the fermentation happens a bit faster. You want to ferment at room temperature. What I'm going to do is to pour out the milk into a jug, and what will be left behind in the jug itself is the kefir ready to be refrigerated, and then what we'll have left in the sieve at the end is the scoby, the starter culture for kefir. Now you'll notice that I'm using a plastic sieve here. That's because some people say that kefir, and especially the bacteria and yeast, react badly against metal mesh. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but it seems like a good way to treat your starter right. So this is what I do every day, and it's part of the two-step process of when you're fermenting and then getting ready for your kefir. So it's not a difficult process, I promise you. And what I've done is literally tipped it into my measuring jug. And I don't know if you can see it very well. Oh, the cat's here, you see? The cat loves kefir so much. You might be able to hear her meowing. You probably can't see her in the shot. She's a bit of a dairy fan, and actually animals can like it too. So I poured it out. When it was pouring, you might not have seen, but it's got a slightly different texture to normal milk because it's gone a little bit thicker, a little bit somewhere between yogurt and cream. What we have left now is the culture. It's a little bit like a cauliflower. Looks like a tiny miniature cauliflower, or even a little bit like a brain, and I quite like that comparison because there are actually really close connections between what's in your gut, and these bacteria in here can help your gut and the brain, and we go into a lot more of that in the Dirty Diet. But it certainly makes a lot of sense to ensure as much diversity as possible within your gut bacteria, and that's one of the things this will help with. So I put in the milk yesterday and it's about the same amount, but it's gone into that nice double cream sort of yogurt drink texture. I'm just going to pop that in the fridge now, and once it's in the fridge it will be stabilised at the limit of sourness. So the longer you leave this little starter in your milk to culture it, the more sour the taste is going to get. And this is the other great thing about making your own, that you can choose how sour you want it to get, because the longer you leave this to act on the sugars in the milk, the fewer sugars will be left. So what I'm going to do now is to show you the next process of actually making the stuff, and it is almost as simple as what we just did, pouring it out. It's just pouring something else. So what I'm going to do is use this pot. So I've used this Kilner jar ever since I started. Any glass jar or a large jam jar will do. It's good if it's got a loose fitting lid, just in case you forget about it, because the ferments can cause gases as a side effect, which could potentially, if you left it for a really long time, make any bottle or jam jar explode because of the built up pressure. In fact, it's pretty unlikely to happen with dairy kefir, more likely with water kefir, which is a completely different set of starter, but also works on sugars that you mix with water to ferment. What I'm going to do now is just set it to 0 and pour that in there. Now what's really interesting is, since I got my starter and I ordered it on the internet, and I'll put an address at the bottom of where you can get it, I just ordered mine from Amazon and it arrived really quickly, and I got to work on it straight away so that it suffered as little as possible from its journey, because it is a living thing. So I've just tipped it in there, and actually now my starter weighs 20 grams, and it started at about 5, and I've been making this now at home for about 4 weeks. So it will grow, and the good thing about that is that you can then give it away. So you kind of might have to buy the first batch, but if you are in an area where people might be making this, then perhaps a city or something, do ask around to find out if anyone's got a bit going spare, because it doesn't cost them anything. So I've got 20 grams there of this, and as a rough rule of thumb, I'm really bad at maths here, but for every 5 grams of the starter you've got, in warmish weather, you want to be adding 100 ml of milk. And that can be any kind of milk you like. It could be full fat milk, or it could be semi-skimmed. I don't recommend skimmed because there's not as much for it to act on. I like using whole organic milk if possible, just because I know that I'm saving myself money by making it, and I quite like the idea of it being organic. But actually I couldn't buy any organic milk the other day, so this is just the normal stuff. So I know that this is 20 grams, so that means that I'm going to want to put in here about 400 grams of milk, or 400 ml I should say. So I'm just going to pour that in now. Oh la la. Now, the good thing about the scoby, the starter culture, is that it will work for you whenever you want it to. Let's say you're going on holiday or something. I now feel really responsible for my scoby. I like it. I see it almost like a pet. So I've got my cat that is staying mystifyingly out of shot. But I feel responsible for my scoby as well, just as I do for my sourdough bread starter. So if you're going away, or if you're just swimming in kefir and you've given it to all your neighbours and so on, you can pop it in the fridge just in a jam jar, well covered with milk, and it will keep for about 2 to 3 weeks. Again, like the kefir, the made up kefir itself, it is actually stored in there quite nicely. It's stable, and then you can take it back out again when you need to use it. So I've got 400 ml then of milk in there. Put the lid back on, and that is basically it. That is all there is to it. It will now act on the milk that I put in there and start digesting those nice sugars. And we are talking about, in the end, it turning into about the same amount of kefir. Now, my cat is now deciding to sniff the camera. I'm going to have to take a shot of this later because it is hugely distracting and I'm a bit worried about my camera. Oh, Izzy, out of the way, mate. This is just proof. I wasn't making it up about my cat, who has seen a fly, I think, so I'll let her go. Because my camera was very nice, I don't want her to break it. So anyway, we've now got that ready to go. It will act on it, it will turn it into kefir, and then probably around about this time tomorrow, I'll check it again, check it for sourness, and see where we go. I really like it. As you can see, it is possibly the easiest bit of non-cooking you can have. Now, the other thing that you might want to think about is what you're going to use the kefir for. So, I quite often drink a little bit in the morning, like that. About that amount, you don't need much more, and I know that I'm getting those good bacteria in a state that they're going to hopefully make it into my gut, where they will help keep the bad guys out and also form colonies which can achieve all sorts of amazing functions. We know now that the collection of microbes within your gut, your lower intestine, something we call the gut microbiome, is responsible for all kinds of amazing functions. So vitamin production, production of other composts, other compounds, helping to keep the lining of the gut nice and healthy so that some of the poisons that we might take in our food don't get through. So just drinking it like this is really delicious. You can also use it in many of the places that you'd use milk or yogurt. So I use it in savoury dressings. I mix it up with mustard or blue cheese. You can heat it really, really gently, not overheat it because you're going to kill some of the bacteria, but sometimes I just warm it up a little bit. It's also great making desserts, so I quite often make a little breakfast pot for myself, so I might put in some oats. And then what you've got here, you've got the probiotics, these are the bacteria, and then oats are actually the food for some of your gut bacteria. So these are prebiotic. They're absolutely loved by the gut bacteria, so you've got 2 in 1 there really. You just mix them in, pop it in the fridge overnight so that the oats soften up nicely. And then, I haven't washed them, but you get the impression. I can put a couple of nice strawberries in there, pop it in the fridge, really quick to drink in the morning, and it will actually make you feel fantastic. So I hope that's encouraged you at least to give kefir a try. It is one of those drinks that nobody had heard of in the UK certainly a few years ago, apart from a few people who are very conscious of health food ingredients, and now it is really going mainstream, and that's because it is good for you, but it tastes nice as well, because that's what I think is the most essential thing. You're not going to consume something that is good for you but doesn't taste very good. It has to be balanced, it has to be sustainable, and enjoyable food that does you good. That's what the Dirty Diet is all about.